Encounters with the Nagual by Armondo Torres. Chapter 5. Energetic Drainage. Part 1. On many occasions when I listened to Carlos, he referred to the topic of energy. Each time he would explain different aspects of it. I have gathered some of them in this chapter to give the reader a more coherent view. His teachings, or rather the teachings of the traditions of seers to which he belonged, begin with the fact that the universe is dual. It is formed by two forces, which the old seers symbolize by means of two snakes that are intertwined. But those forces have nothing to do with the dualities we call good and bad, God and the devil, positive and negative, or any other kind of opposing pairs we can think of coherently. Rather, they constitute an inexplicable wave of energy which the Toltecs called the tonal and the Nagual. In an axiomatic way, they established that everything we can interpret or imagine in any way is the tonal, and the rest, which we cannot categorize, is the Nagual. To emphasize that they are not two antagonistic realities, but rather two complementary aspects of one unique force, which they nicknamed, quote-unquote, the eagle. The seers compared the tonal and the Nagual with the two sides of our physical body, the right side and the left side. And they saw that just as the basic configuration of organisms is almost totally structured from a bilateral symmetry, these are also the forms in which energy manifests itself in the cosmos, and with it, the way we perceive. Life is formed when a portion of the free energy of infinity, which the old seers called the emanations of the eagle, are encapsulated by an external force, becoming a new individual being aware of himself. And they saw that the perception of the world happens when something they called the assemblage point of perception comes into play. Although that center of selection is in operation in every living being in the universe, the deliberate awareness of oneself on this earth can only be achieved by human beings and a group of species lacking physical organization, whom the seers of antiquity called allies. Interaction between man and these beings is not only feasible, it is something that frequently happens in our dreams. Sorcerers cultivate it since the consciousness of inorganic beings, which are much older than us, is filled with something that we all covet, knowledge. Having taken on the work of investigating the modes of energy, the sages from old Mexico were urged to describe to their contemporaries what they had discovered. In their effort to find the most appropriate terms, they said that all that exists is divided into light and dark, like day and night. And from there, they derived every thinkable binary description. It is a command which reflects the great cosmic duality. Through their seeing, they discovered that the world of energy is made up of extensive areas of darkness sprinkled with tiny points of light, and they perceived that the dark areas corresponded to the feminine part of the energy, while the bright areas corresponded to the masculine. They arrived at the inevitable conclusion that the universe is almost in its entirety feminine, and that the bright energy, the masculine, is rare. By definition, they associated darkness with the left side, the Nagual, the unknown, and the feminine, and the luminosity with the right side, the tonal, the known, and the masculine. Continuing their observations, they saw that the act of galactic creation happens when the cosmic darkness contracts itself, and from it arises an explosion of light, a spark that expands, giving origin to the order of time and space. The law of this order is that things always have an end, which again implies that the unique and perennial principle of the universe is the dark energy, feminine, creative, and eternal. Likewise, man is divided into the tonal, represented by his daytime vigil, and the Nagual by his dreams at night. From this observation, the rest of the wisdom of the Naguals is derived. They teach that dreams are a doorway to power because ultimately what sustains us is the dark energy to which we go periodically to be renewed. Consequently, they directed all their power towards perfecting the art of becoming conscious while in the state of dreaming. They called that special kind of attention dreaming, and they used it to deliberately explore the dark energy and come into contact with the source of the universe. In that way, the initial observation of the wise Toltecs became a practical knowledge. One of Carlos's more frequent statements was that the opinions that we form about everything transform our world into something more and more predictable, until the possibility of visiting other worlds becomes a fairy tale. For modern man, he said on one occasion, absolutely everything that exists is put into definite categories. We are labeling machines. We classify the world, and the world classifies us. If once you killed a dog, you are a dog killer for the rest of your life, even if you never touched another one. And those classifications are inherited. He mentioned a series of funny and expressive last names that were related to the characteristics of a particular person, but then the names were bequeathed as an imposition on their descendants. It went to show that energetically people are marked. He asserted that the greatest example of that absurd propensity to classify us is what believers call, quote-unquote, original sin, the sin of Adam and Eve, which makes us all forever sinful and also makes us all behave as sinners. We have become perceptual jailers of each other. The chain of human thoughts is powerful. Even our deepest feelings are classified and ordered so that nothing can escape. One example is the way we alienate ourselves from the actual time we are living in order to mindlessly go around repeating stereotypes. We have a collection of preset days: Mother's Day, All Saints' Day, Valentine's Day, birthday, anniversaries, and weddings. They are like stakes we tie our life to so we won't get lost. And thus, we walk the earth, revolving around our descriptions like beasts tied by the neck. He told us about when he and Don Juan once traveled to a small town in the north of Mexico and sat down to rest on a bench in the church square. Suddenly, 10 or 12 youths came carrying a Judas figure made of cloth and canes. It was dressed in a blanket and sandals like an Indian. They installed it in the town square, and that night there was a public burning. Everybody drank, and everybody took turns insulting the puppet as part of the ritual. With customs like that, people keep Judas alive. They remember him They sustain him. They keep him in a true hell with their memories. And after burning him, next year, they resurrect him and kill him again. The rigidity of human behavior is revealed in those routines. A person in the audience requested permission to speak and asked him whether his statement regarding how, by remembering him, the town keeps Judas alive was meant literally or was just a metaphor. He answered, "Sorcerers affirm that as long as there is memory, there is awareness of being. Since the current of thought is an injection of life, true death is oblivion. The idea that time moves in a straight line from past to future is completely primitive, something that goes against the experience of sorcerers and even of modern science. Due to that limited interpretation, most of humanity is kept prisoner in a tunnel of time, where their destiny becomes an infinite repetition of the same. The reality of our condition is that we are energetically blocked due to what sorcerers call the collective fixation of the assemblage point. A remarkable consequence of that fixation is the way we specialize. When preparing for a profession, for example, instead of widening our scope, we usually end up becoming sedentary, boring individuals without creativity and without motivation. In a few years, our life becomes tedious, and far from taking responsibility and changing ourselves, we blame our circumstances.